This episode of the SlooPicks is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Who? The Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where they say our seasoning will take your barbecue from good to great. Mad Canadian, as Jared's staring at me, the Mad Canadian was in Cary this Thursday. They'll be back in Cary at the OLC Shrine Cafeteria next Thursday. So mark your calendar. Next Thursday, 4 to 7 at the OLC Shrine Cafeteria for some good old barbecue and bingo. Be sure to head up his social media for more information about him and his food truck and more upcoming visits from him. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, the official barbecue of the Cary High School Blue Devils.
This episode of the SlooPcast also brought to you by the Iron Bean Coffee Company. Kyle, this is just the day after Veterans Day. I feel like we should still be talking about it. Day after Veterans Day, this is a veteran-owned, Marine-owned company that deserves your support. Not just because they're Marine-owned. Don't be doing them any favors. Not just because it's veteran-owned. Don't be doing them any favors now. But you should also be doing it because it's an amazing coffee product. It's an amazing coffee product. All of their beans are fresh, roasted. All of their beans are directly imported from farms, ensuring that the beans are both fair trade certified and USDA organic. All of the beans are then fresh roasted and sent directly to your house. They are not roasted until you order them, and that's their guarantee, because they are a company like you would expect from Marine, based on integrity. So you can find your new favorite coffee over at ironbeancoffee.com. That is Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.
How's it going, everybody? Hope everybody doing well. We made it to Friday as this is being as this is being posted. We had some action football this week. Basketball started. It's a good week, and we're gonna end it on a high note with some football this Saturday.
Yeah, we got Nomad doing our guest picking. He sent us some paragraphs, so we'll have to allot some time for that. So yeah, let's quit screwing around and get started with the show. We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the SlooPcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well. How are you doing today, Jared?
I have no complaints that I'm going to air publicly. Kyle, I don't want to mess around. I want to get right into this. We have some SlooPicks to do. Let's get this done in a neat and orderly fashion. And let's let everyone know right off the top of the show, in case you hadn't listened to yesterday's show, which by the way, you should. But just our first Sloop pick is Ohio State versus Purdue. I picked Ohio State to cover a 20.5 point spread. Nomad and Kyle did not. Why? Because they're traitors. They are Benedict Arnolds.
Yeah. Sure. And you're a homer.
No, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's start off with continuing with the Big Ten here. Michigan and Penn State. This is not a whiteout, but it is playing at Penn State, where Penn State is a half-point favorite. It's a pick'em. It's a pick'em.
It's a pick'em, ladies and gentlemen.
It is Teton versus not our rival.
Kyle, I'm going for it. I think Penn State gets the upset here.
Oh, all right. I like it.
And by the way, technically that half point is their half point. So per Vegas, it's not even an upset. But yeah, this is a pick'em game. We're picking the winner. Penn State is so much better than their 6-3 record. Penn State is so much better than that 23rd ranking. They aren't getting proper credit for the fact that Illinois loss and that Iowa loss doesn't happen if Clifford doesn't get hurt. So Penn State, so much better than they're being given credit for, and they're so much better than Michigan.
All right, well, I just don't trust Penn State's offense to get the ball, to get what?
Is there anyone trustworthy in this game? Are you going to put any amount of trust in James Franklin
Well,
or Jim Harbaugh?
I like Michigan's defense as a whole. I do like their defense, and I think they'll really put a stop to Penn State. Penn State's not going to be able to score enough
Hard
to
disagree.
win the game. So I'll pick that team up north.
I tell you what, though, Kyle, and like, don't real life gamble. As we like to say, don't real life gamble. Over under on this game currently at 48.5. My advice to you, and I'm not giving you gambling advice because do not real life gamble. Don't try and pick the winner here. Just go with that under. Just ride that under. Ride the under.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing here today.
Yeah. Our guest picker, Nomad, who's also in the chat here. He says here, a now healthy Clifford has looked like his old self in the past few games, throwing for 363, 361 against Maryland and Ohio State. A lack of dependable running backs continue to be the biggest missing piece for the whatever the hell the Nittany Lion is team. Jimmy Harbs continues to eat hot dogs he stuffed in his pocket before the game instead of focusing on continued fourth quarter meltdowns his team has been having, as well as whether or not he wants to settle on just one quarterback. How does this with a not so inconspicuous chew in his mouth all game long always baffle me? Maybe the milk hidden away in his reserve Gatorade bottle helps with the process. Who knows?
Well, I can answer that question. Question. It's not chew. It's just hot dog. He hasn't chewed up yet. He's storing hot dog reserves in his mouth.
Jimmy Harb's defense continues to impress, but in the end, Mr. Hot Dogs and Milk at the helm, the struggles will continue. Late in the game, I'm taking not our rivals to win and cover.
You think a hot dog gets pruny in your mouth eventually?
I don't want to think about it. I want to think about it the next game here. Oklahoma and Baylor. Noon game on Fox here, so this is the Fox special. Oklahoma is a 5.5 point favorite in this game. I think that's too much. I think that's too much for me. 5.5 too much. I'm going to take Baylor to cover here. Maybe even pull the upset. I'll take Baylor in this one. Oklahoma just plays these games way too close. I'm going to take Baylor here.
I think the line is at 5.5. I'm gonna take Oklahoma. 6.5 would have had me thinking a little bit more. 7.5, I think I would have gone with Baylor. It's that close to me. It really is that close to me. I think Oklahoma's playing better now with the correct quarterback at the helm, and I've also just never thought Baylor was actually all that good. So take all those things, and yeah, I feel pretty comfortable taking Oklahoma under 6 points.
And what about that over-under, Jared?
I don't have that up.
It's 62.
62. So what? That's 31 points per team. Over. Take that over.
Yes, sir. All right, Nomad. This is the game nobody outside of BFE land, that is Central Texas and barren wasteland Oklahoma, actually cares about. OU's defense is a nightmare, as usual, and the ESPN appointed Heisman runner-up, but has only played a couple of games. Caleb Williams hasn't done enough, or AKA Johnny Manziel 2.0, hasn't done enough for me to care about. I would look up Baylor's stats and performance, but my interest after their loss to a pedestrian TCU is about level with my interest in knowing where Waco is located on a map. There isn't any. Give me Oklahoma to cover the 5.5.
There you go. What's next, Kyle?
All right, moving through these quick here. All right, we're going back up to Big Ten country here. Minnesota and Iowa. 3:30 game. And Iowa is a 6.5 point favorite in this game here, Jared. I think this is going to be a close game here. I don't like Iowa the way they've been playing, especially offensively. And Minnesota, I think Minnesota can run the ball against Iowa here. doesn't matter who the running back is. I think Minnesota can keep this a really interesting game. So I'll take Minnesota to cover here.
I'm taking Minnesota as well. It's hard to imagine me picking Iowa to beat most teams by 6.5 points. Like, it's just, I have so little faith in their offense that it's just legitimately very difficult for me. Kyle, you want to guess do you know what the over under is on this one yet? Have you looked?
In this game, no, I haven't.
Guess what it is. Guess what it is.
Is it like 39?
37. And I'd still be tempted to take the under. Yeah, I mean, you look at the last few games, Iowa struggled to beat a Northwestern team that's pretty bad, only winning that game by 5 points. They lost to Wisconsin. They lost to Purdue. They beat Penn State by only 3 points. It's hard for me to pick Iowa beating any Big Ten team by more than 6.5 points. So I'm just going Minnesota here. The number would have had to have been like 3.5 to persuade me to take Iowa.
Okay.
Maybe even
All right.
2.5. Let's go 2.5.
All right, here. All right, so Nomad here says why this game was chosen is beyond me.
Nomad's always critiquing what games I pick. He's always critiquing what games I pick. And you know what? Honestly, I needed a second game in the 3:30 slot. I try and spread the game because I know people like to watch the SlooPicks, especially the people who are involved in our online SlooPicks. They like to watch those games specifically. I try to spread them out during the course of the day. You'll notice that it's a couple games in this time slot and a couple games in that times. I needed a second 3:30 game is the answer to that question.
All right, let's see here. He also says Wisconsin is going to win. Yeah, Wisconsin is going to win the Big West, and watching either of these teams try to play offense is more painful than getting an emergency root canal performed by a British dental surgeon in southern Afghanistan in the middle of a war zone.
Is that personal experience there, buddy? You're still in the chat. You haven't said anything in a minute, Nomad. Is that personal experience? We'll see.
Neither team will score. Neither team will score, but Iowa's defense will duplicate what the Fighting Mama Junes did last week to Minnesota. Give me Iowa to cover at home.
Did you also you took Minnesota, so he's rolling alone on that one. How are we doing so far with the spreads of our picks? You two both went against me with Ohio State. Let's see. I took Penn State. He took Penn State. Did you take Penn State?
I did not.
So you're the lone person to take Michigan, once again proving how much you hate the great state of Ohio. Picking against Ohio State, then picking for Michigan. What the hell is wrong with you? That Kyle hates me so much when I do that. Kyle, what bothers you more, when I do that or when I call you an NC State homer?
So the other one here, Oklahoma and Baylor here. Jared, you picked Oklahoma, and Nomad picked Oklahoma, and I picked Baylor in this one. So again, I'm the lone wolf in this one, and then you and I picked Minnesota, and Nomad picked Iowa.
Okay,
for that one.
So that's a nice little recap, which should take us right into our next commercial break here. Kyle, do you want to go first this time, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. The Mad Canadian Barbecue Company mentioned where you can catch him next week. Again, at the OLC Shrine Cafeteria 4 to 7 next Thursday. But be sure to hit up his social medias. He plans on trying to make more visits. Just check out Facebook, Twitter. He'll post where he's heading to. But as of right now, playing on Thursday, 4 to 7 at the OLC Shrine Cafeteria. I want to check some more reviews here. So there's one recently here. Someone said that they hired They hired the Mad Canadian to serve their staff at an elementary school. Very brave soul. Very, very good barbecue. Uh, the barbecue baked beans were her favorite. It was very delicious. And you can look at all these other reviews talking about barbecue sauce is great. The the pulled pork is great. Everything that's on the menu is great. So check them out, and you won't be disappointed. So with that, the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is the official barbecue of the Cary High School Blue Devils.
Kyle, name a coffee type for me. Give me
Coffee
a
type?
roast. Yeah, like a roast.
Let's do light. Let's do a light
roast. Well, there's the medium light Loki. That's what I got for you. It's not a full light coffee. It's a medium light coffee. Again, it's called the Loki, named after the Nordic god of mischief. He was a thing before Marvel, you guys. One of the most renowned coffees in the world. I'm not saying the Loki is. I'm saying the specific coffee bean is. I just wasn't attempting to pronounce it because you're good. Chefy? I don't know. I was pronouncing it with like a Russian accent, and it's not. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing there. But this is a wet process blend that is higher in caffeine than you might expect from a light roast. It's very low in acidity, a rich tasting coffee, citrus and floral notes. It's an Ethiopian Yurga Chefi. I don't know how to pronounce it, you guys. I don't know how to pronounce most things, but this is well beyond my skill level. This is a light roast coffee made with 100% Arabica beans to give you the edge and confidence to slay your day. Like all of their coffees, it is, excuse me, organic and fair trade certified to ensure you're getting the highest quality coffee beans available. Smooth, never bitter, low in acidity, 100% natural. And like most of their coffees, you can get it either whole bean or fresh ground. If you're not someone that grinds your own coffee beans, well, I almost said the Mad Canadian. Iron Bean Coffee is a great place to do that because not only is the coffee being, I mean, obviously, because you roast it before you grind it, right? So if it's fresh roasted, that also means you're getting it fresh ground. And you always want your coffee as freshly ground as possible because the oils and I don't need to get into the science of it. Bottom line is that you're always getting the freshest possible coffee, whether it be roast, whole bean, ground, or no matter what the situation is, over at ironbeancoffee.com. That is Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster. Okay, Kyle, we have 3 more games to go. We have a couple Ask Sloopcast questions. Let's jump back into this.
Sure thing. So let's go into the SEC country. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Pair of 2 lost teams going at it. In this game, Texas A&M is a 2.5 point favorite. Who do you got in this one, Jared?
I got Ole Miss not just to cover this game, but I think, I'm not going to say this with a ton of confidence because maybe only like 55, 60% sure of this, but I think Ole Miss actually wins this football game. Neither of these teams are overly consistent. Neither of these teams are anything special as far as their on the field product this year. I think they're both fairly I think Texas A&M is slightly overranked, but I think they're like 10 to 20 teams. Like this is who they are. And I think they're fairly evenly matched. So ultimately, like, give me the team that's giving me points. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss here. Even if it's only 2.5 points, I still kind of feel like they win this football game. So yeah, if you're going to give me, even if it's only a measly 2.5 points, I'm going to take those 2.5 points.
I feel the complete opposite. I feel that Texas A&M will win this game, and I feel like Ole Miss is so overrated. I just don't trust this Ole Miss team here. So I got Texas A&M to cover in this game.
What does Nomad have to say?
the only thing worse than listening to someone talk about going to a service academy or being part of the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets is listening to Texas A&M graduates talk about being in their Corps of Cadets. The 12th man is as old as a...
Whore. It's pronounced
What did I
whore.
say?
You don't pronounce the P.
Thought I did it. Sorry. Corps of Cadets. The 12th man is as old as a petrified horse apple. Mississippi can't play defense. A&M can't play offense. Give me A&M to cover.
I think he said it. Kyle, I think you missed the last line.
Give me A&M to cover in what should be dubbed the whose fan base is more racist game.
I feel like Nomad, that would need to be a tournament of a few teams. I wanted it out there, Nomad. I wanted it out there. I don't care. Yeah, and just so everyone knows, Nomad is, and I'm not going to completely blow up his spot because I know he enjoys his anonymity, either active or former military. So when he's talking crap about those service academies, it's coming from a place of experience. I promise you this. And it's his opinion too. It's an opinion that I am not equipped to have because I don't have Nomad's life experience.
All right, Jared. Next one here, we're going to ACC country, where we have probably maybe to decide who wins the division here. Maybe we got NC State taking on Wake Forest.
Oh, what has happened to the ACC?
How is this game on the ACC network?
I assume because it was scheduled a long time ago. That's my assumption. I don't know.
So NC State, Wake Forest. Wake Forest
because despite the fact that it might decide one of the divisions of the ACC, people still don't care. Might be the actual right answer. By the way, but just for the record, Minnesota and Iowa, which also might decide one of the divisions of the Big Ten, is also on the Big Ten network.
That's true. Yes. Wake Forest is a 2.5 point favorite. From what I've seen from Wake Forest offense this year, I just think it's going to be too much for NC State. I thought, especially in the beginning of the year, I thought NC State's defense does enough to keep themselves in games, to win games, and then when they beat Clemson, it's like, yay, they took down Clemson, but then we found out really who Clemson is, and that mental part of me thinking about NC State's defense didn't really hasn't really stuck to me as much. But I just think Wake Forest offense is just going to be too much here, so I'll take 2.5. It's the NC State getting 2.5 just isn't enough for me. So I'll take Wake Forest to cover.
Kyle, everything I just said about Texas A&M and Ole Miss, you can copy and paste all of that to this game as well. I think that the quote-unquote underdog here has a slightly better chance of winning this game. I like NC State to beat Wake Forest here, but I'm not confident in it. Again, it's like a 55-60% confidence rating that they actually win this football game, but it's still, I like them to win the football game more than I like Wake Forest to win the football game. And so if you're going to give me points, I'm going to take the points. So like I said, just copy and paste most of the things I just said about the Texas A&M Ole Miss game. Paste it here. Give me the underdog. Give me the 2.5 points in a game in which I think both teams have a relatively equal chance of winning. Both of these teams are fine. Both of these teams are ranked in that 10 to 20 area, which is exactly where they appropriately belong to be. I believe these are appropriate ranks for these teams. They're evenly matched. Give me the 2.5 points.
All right. Nomad here says, in what should be otherwise be an entertaining game, the ACC has zero national relevancy this year. Means I will be eating barbecue and drinking a cold IPA instead of paying attention to this game. Wake Forest can't play defense. NC State, well, they're struggling with just being meaningful for once in the ACC. Wake has too much offensive firepower. give me Wake to cover.
And again, kind of like Ole Miss and Texas A&M, you have one team who is offensively good but defensively challenged, and the opposite thing on the opposite side of the field. So who knows, right? You go in strength on strength in both of these games, and week on week, for that matter.
Next up here, we got some Big 12 action here. TCU taking on Oklahoma State.
Nomad, if you would like to critique me for putting this game on the schedule, that's fine. Like, this was is it? I haven't read your answer yet. This was the 7th game I added. I ran out. There was like 6. There was like 6 games to pick. This one is what yeah, okay. This was the 7th game.
Oklahoma State is a 13.5 point favorite. Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State. I got Oklahoma State to cover.
To care?
To care.
Is that you saying that you don't?
Yes, I don't.
I put this on here, hoping that maybe some team chaos comes out of it. We saw TCU get a big upset last week against Baylor, knocking off the number 12 or so team last week. They just moved on to a new new head coach, and they just Oklahoma State is a good defensive team. Offensively, I'd say they're fine. They're nothing special offensively, although they have some really nice talent. I don't feel like they put it all together all the time. So I think they struggle in the quarterback position. I think they struggle a lot in the quarterback position. Oklahoma State is very limited on where they can go this year. I do think they end up winning this game, but TCU has a little bit of momentum right now, and they might ride that enough to make this interesting, even if they don't actually put it away at the end. But at what is it, 13.5, 14.5 points that we locked this in, 13.5. At 13.5, I feel like I can maybe lock in TCU, but ultimately I think Oklahoma State's defense wins the day. Probably holding TCU to under, like, in a single digit point total. So even if Oklahoma State's offense isn't that good, I don't feel like they need to score that many points to actually cover. So what I think what you see here is probably like a 28-7 football game, which is enough to cover.
Yeah. All right, Nomad here. He says version 2.0 of my take on the OU versus Baylor game. There you go, Jared. Another game where anyone outside of the overinflated egos of Dallas and the cow manure wasteland of Oklahoma doesn't care. 13.5 points, too rich for my blood. Give me TCU to cover.
That is totally fair. I understand where you're coming from, although I disagree. Kyle.
All right.
Ooh, I almost burped into the microphone. Kyle, time for some Sloop Ask questions. What do we have?
Yes. Nomad here again asks, with the unveiling of the CFP rankings, if you shifted the definition of the tier levels, the explanations no longer seem to match original definition.
Yeah. We trimmed down so if anyone maybe doesn't listen to our Tuesday or watch our Tuesday episode, we've been putting teams in a tier system all year. And just based on the fact that it's late in the season, and honestly also just based on some feedback we were getting from listeners that maybe the tier list episodes were a bit bloated and hard to follow. So combine the fact that it's late in the season with some of the feedback we were getting from people. Yeah, we completely just removed almost all of college football from the tier list, and basically turned it into sort of a playoff predictor, where our S tier is now basically the 4 teams in the playoff per Kyle and I. And the next tier, the A tier, is essentially like teams that are just like on the cusp of getting into the playoff, maybe teams that can get there based off of, like, we have Michigan in the A tier. Why? Because I feel like Michigan, at least, I think Michigan probably controls their own destiny. If Michigan completely wins out, beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten championship game, Michigan's in the playoffs. So I think that's sort of what the A tier is. A team that can earn their own way into the playoff, or maybe get there with a minimum amount of help.
Mm.
And then we have like the B tier, which are teams that with like a realistic option but need a lot of help. Then we have the C tier, which are teams that were just aren't realistically able to make the playoffs, but also we don't want to completely rule them out either. So that's kind of how the new tier system works.
Yep, fair enough. Nomad also says, more than that, B tier and above seems to be focused on P5, on Power 5.
That's not at all true. We have Cincinnati in there. So take that.
Who's your Buckeye Zach with a question about Bama? Why does Bama suck and still get praised?
Because whether the playoff committee wants to admit it or not, and they're not going to admit it, they look at recruiting rankings. It's a dirty little secret. No one wants to admit it. They look at recruiting rankings. They know and understand how much talent is on a football team, and they'll never come out and say it. They'll never say Alabama recruits better than anyone else in the country, therefore we're going to put them number 2 in the playoffs. They'll never come out and say it. They'll make up a bunch of BS excuses about why this team's here and why it's an impossible task to summarize the opinions of 13 people with a sentence or two. So I understand that everyone hates, I'm blanking on his name, the committee chairman, because the explanations he's giving are inconsistent. And yeah, they are. They are inconsistent. Why? Because he's trying to summarize the opinion of 13 different people in a sentence or two, which is an impossible thing for him to do. And if you're asking for transparency, you're not going to get it. Sorry. That transparency was not built into this model. But like I said, right, the one thing that they're doing that they will never admit to doing is they are looking at recruiting rankings. Yeah. Or at least, even if they aren't like looking at recruiting rankings, they are just acknowledging the amount of talent on a given football team.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, Jared, that is all the questions, and I think that is it for our SlooPicks episode.
Yeah, I think we're actually going to finish this one on time for once. What a small miracle that is. Want to encourage everyone to just come hang out in our Discord server. If you're tired of Twitter, if you're tired of the drama that you find on Twitter and elsewhere on the internet, we have a tightly moderated Discord server. It's a positivity-based server. We don't allow outside fans in. If we notice someone's a Penn State or a Michigan or an Alabama, we boot them immediately. It's one of the most peaceful Discord servers you're going to find. Like I said, it's all of the shenanigans that take place in the server are good-hearted shenanigans, and it's a nice community we have. And if you act up, we'll kick your ass out. That's how it is, because we're trying to preserve the culture of the server and not letting it spiral into chaos. And so if you bring chaos to the server, we're going to remove you. But if you want to hang out with fellow Ohio State fans and talk intelligently about football games and not just, this dude sucks and I want him fired and benched and yeah, thank you, Buckeye Zach. He says, we're positive jackasses. I have nothing else to add. Kyle, what do you have in your Kyle's Corner?
Staying on the vibe of being positive, basketball, Jared. The 2022 basketball rankings, which we never talk about. Ohio State finishes first in the Big Ten.
Sorry, what now?
Ohio State basketball recruiting finished first in the Big Ten for the 2022 basketball rankings per 24/7 Sports. They are sixth. They finished sixth overall in the rank in the composite rankings.
I don't know how to feel about that. Because, like, listen, I've been trying to put hope into this basketball team and they keep hurting me. And when you say stuff like that, it gives me hope again. And like, I went into this last game against Akron. First actual game of the season. Got all these seniors of like fifth year and maybe even fans in the stadium. It's at home. It's in Columbus. It's in the Schottenstein Center. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the season. Like I said, you got all of this senior talent on the team. I think I saw, Austin in our server said that there's like 1,000 combined basketball starts on Ohio State's roster, something like that. If that number's wrong, blame Austin. And then they beat Akron by 1 point on a buzzer beater. And it's just like, Kyle, I was ready to be hurt again, but damn, I wasn't ready to be hurt again in week 1. And then you go and you tell me stuff like that, and it gives me hope again. And I'm tired of getting hurt, Kyle.
I'm just being positive, Jared. I'm just being positive. All right, we can end the episode. End the episode, Jared.
Tonight's episode, no, I almost said sponsored by. That's inaccurate. Tonight's ending music we brought to you by a Columbus-based band called Courtney from Work. They just announced a December 4th date. That is December 4th at the Roomba Cafe in Columbus, Ohio. That is Saturday, December 4th at the Roomba Cafe in, I believe we call that the Glen Echo neighborhood of Columbus. I believe that's what we call that. That's, again, the Roomba Cafe, Columbus, Ohio. Name of the band is Courtney from Work. I think we just played them recently, but they announced the new date, so I wanted to play them again. And quite frankly, once we get closer to that December 4th date, I'll probably play them a third time and remind you about the show. So that's when you do 4 episodes a week, you're gonna replace some bands more often. Is the truth of the matter. But yeah. So once again, Courtney from Work, Columbus-based band, Roomba Cafe, December 4th. So with all that being said, Kyle, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Courtney from Work.